In 207 BC, the Qin Dynasty fell. But the fate of the realm had not yet been decided. Liu Bang and Xiang Yu. The 4-year Chu-Han War had begun. And in 202 BC, Liu Bang finally claimed victory. The moment a farmer's son became emperor. What was he thinking in that moment? According to the records, Liu Bang faced not the joy of triumph, but a question of staggering weight. How does one govern this vast empire? The Qin had collapsed in 14 years. Law and fear alone cannot sustain an empire. Liu Bang knew this in his very bones. Liu Bang began with a symbolic declaration. Upon entering Xianyang, he proclaimed to the people, "Those who kill shall be punished by death. Those who wound shall be punished. Those who steal shall be punished." This 3 articles of law, recorded in the Shiji, signaled a move away from the Qin's complex and brutal legal code. A degree of legal structure continued in practice, but the people erupted in joy at the declaration. Yet Liu Bang knew. He knew the limits of binding people through fear. So what moves people? What makes an empire endure? It would take 70 years from the dynasty's founding before Han would find the answer. For 70 years after its founding, Han operated on a different principle. Wang Lao thought. This philosophy, applying Laozi's Tao to governance, preached Wu Wei, non-action. Do not interfere. Let the natural order flow. From Gaozu Liu Bang through Emperor Wen and Emperor Jing, the Han emperors embraced this philosophy. Let the people exhausted by war rest, restore agriculture, lighten the taxes. This era, later known as the rule of Wen and Jing, allowed the empire to quietly gather its strength. But this peace could not last forever. On the northern steppe, a formidable enemy waited, the Xiongnu. Beyond the empire's borders, a vast world still stretched into the unknown. And in 141 BC, everything began to change. 141 BC. A boy of 15 took his place upon the throne. The senior officials surrounding him looked upon this young emperor with contempt. Another young emperor, the Grand Empress Dowager, will hold the real power. But they were wrong. This boy would one day be known as Emperor Wu Liuqi, the man who would reshape the Han Dynasty and 2,000 years of Chinese history. Emperor Wu's hand gripped the armrest of the throne. Something stirred within him. Emperor Wu was searching for the answer to governing an empire. And then he encountered a single Confucian scholar, Dong Zhongshu. Dong Zhongshu spoke. "Your Majesty, the Qin bound men with law and perished, but Confucianism changes the hearts of men." Emperor Wu leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Dong Zhongshu answered. "Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, faithfulness. If people believe in these from within, society maintains order without law, and the emperor, as the one who receives the mandate of heaven, stands at the apex of that order." This dialogue, later known as the 3 Strategies of Heaven and Man, decided the direction of the Han Dynasty. Emperor Wu's eyes blazed. Around 136 BC, Emperor Wu made a decision that would change history. He institutionalized Confucianism as the official state doctrine. The 5 classics erudites were established, with the state leading Confucian education. But this did not happen overnight. Han governance never ran on Confucianism alone. The ideal, Confucianism. The machinery, law and bureaucracy. And cosmologies like yin-yang and the 5 phases were woven into governance as well. Modern scholars describe this Han Empire as a, quote, hybrid state. But the direction was clear. Those who studied Confucianism would run the state. That principle was established here. Emperor Wu built the institution. The 5 classics erudites. State professorships teaching the 5 Confucian classics, the odes, the documents, the rites, the changes, and the spring and autumn annals. If you wished to become an official, you had to study Confucianism. Only those who studied Confucianism could govern the state. Yet, at this time, the primary path to officialdom was still the system, recommendation. Those recognized for filial piety and integrity were recommended from the provinces to the capital. What the establishment of the five classics erudites truly meant was the creation of a bureaucratic culture steeped in Confucian learning. The examination-based civil service system that would be refined in later ages as the imperial examinations, it had only just begun here. The entire empire was being unified under Confucian values. That tide began here. But Emperor Wu was not content with domestic affairs alone. 139 BC. Emperor Wu summoned a young diplomat, Zhang Qian. Go west. Form an alliance with the Yuezhi and catch this Xiongnu in a pincer. Zhang Qian obeyed. But what followed was a journey of unimaginable hardship. Captured by the Xiongnu, he spent 10 years in captivity. And still he escaped, still pressing forward to complete his mission. 13 years later, Zhang Qian returned to Chang'an. He had failed to forge the alliance, but what he brought back was worth far more than any treaty. Zhang Qian returned with knowledge of the Western world. In the land of Daiwan Fergana, there were blood-sweating horses. In Daxia, Bactria, the influence of Buddhism had taken root. And Anxi, Parthia, traded as far west as Rome. Emperor Wu's eyes burned with light. This was no diplomatic failure. This was a door to the world. Emperor Wu decided. Han silk would travel west. The goods of the West would flow east. And so the vast trade network connecting East and West was institutionalized and set in motion. Chang'an and the Mediterranean world were linked through countless merchant intermediaries. This complex web of routes would later be called the Silk Road. Over Emperor Wu's reign of more than 50 years, Han was transformed. Territory expanded to 6 million square kilometers. In the north, devastating blows were struck against the Xiongnu, pushing them back across the vast steppe. Yet the Xiongnu were not destroyed. They endured, eventually splitting into northern and southern factions. In 108 BC, Han conquered the Women Joseon Kingdom on the Korean peninsula and established 4 commanderies, including Lilang. In 111 BC, Han destroyed Nanyue and incorporated the region, including northern Vietnam, as commanderies. This was not merely the expansion of territory. Confucian values, unified and internalized, were binding this vast empire together. The emperor, the son of heaven. The officials, embodiments of Confucian virtue. The people, those who learn propriety and loyalty. This three-tiered order became the skeleton of empire. In 2 AD, Han conducted a census. Registered population, approximately 59.5 million souls. The true number may have been even greater, but this figure alone represented roughly 26% of the world's population at the time. Economic historians estimate that Han's GDP accounted for approximately 26% of global output. These are modern, model-based projections, but the scale they describe was overwhelming. At the very same moment that the Roman Empire held dominion over the Mediterranean world, East Asia was home to a civilization of equal magnitude. Chang'an was one of the largest cities on Earth, with a population estimated in the hundreds of thousands. In its markets, silk and gold changed hands. Central Asian merchants sold wine. Han traders bought glass from the West. And in the year 105, the Han Dynasty achieved an improvement that would transform the course of human history. Kai Lun. A eunuch serving in the imperial court, he was determined to solve the problem of writing materials. Bamboo strips were heavy. Silk was costly. In truth, a primitive form of paper had existed even in the former Han period. But it had not reached the quality needed for practical writing. Kai Lun experimented. Tree bark, hemp scraps, worn rags, fragments of fishing nets. Soaked in water, crushed, spread thin, dried. In 105, Kai Lun presented this improved method to the emperor. Paper, as a practical writing material, was complete. Knowledge was no longer the exclusive domain of the wealthy. The Confucian classics spread to every corner of the empire. Emperor Wu had institutionalized Confucianism. Kai Lun delivered it through paper. These two gifts of the Han Dynasty formed the very core of Chinese civilization. 132 AD, later Han. A man named Zheng Heng completed a remarkable device at the observatory in Luoyang. A bronze vessel in the shape of a sphere. 8 dragons were fixed to its exterior, each with a small ball held in its mouth. When an earthquake struck, the dragon facing that direction would release its ball. The Hofeng de Dongyi, among the earliest devices in recorded history capable of indicating the direction of seismic activity. The principles behind its operation continue to be studied and reconstructed by researchers to this day. According to the records, this device accurately detected earthquakes of its time, alerting the capital to the direction of tremors far away. The Han Dynasty sought to govern the hearts of men through Confucian philosophy and to understand the natural world through scientific inquiry. But 426 years would not last forever. 184 AD. The blue sky is already dead. The yellow sky shall rise. The Yellow Turban Rebellion had begun. Political corruption and famine. Recent scholarship points to a sharp climatic cooling of that era, devastating agricultural production and igniting the spark of revolt. The peasants were inflamed by the words of Zhang Jue, a Taoist preacher. The order of heaven is changing. Now is the hour of transformation. Hundreds of thousands wrapped yellow cloth around their heads and rose. The Han Dynasty crushed the rebellion. But the cost was devastating. The warlords dispatched across the land to suppress the uprising began to strengthen their own power. 189 AD. A general named Dong Zhuo seized control of Luoyang. He deposed the child emperor and installed a puppet in his place. Han still existed, in name, but real power had slipped from the emperor's hands. In that moment, Cao Tao, Yuan Shao, Liu Bang, Sun Quan, the men who would carve their names into history began to move, each with ambition burning in his chest. The end of the empire did not come from without. The end of the empire came from within. Even as Confucianism preached loyalty, every man believed himself to be the true successor. November 220 AD. Emperor Xian, the last emperor of later Han. For 35 years he had lived as a puppet, first under Cao Cao, then under Cao Cao's son, Cao Pai. On that day, Emperor Xian read aloud the Edict of Abdication. The mandate of Han is exhausted. I yield the throne to Cao Pi, king of Wei. According to the records, Emperor Xian departed quietly after the abdication. It should be noted that during the Han era, from 8 to 23 AD, Wang Mang's Qin Dynasty briefly interrupted the dynasty. Including that interlude, from 202 BC to 220 AD, 4 centuries of Han came to an end in this moment. The Three Kingdoms era had begun. Wei, Shu, Wu, 3 kingdoms vying for supremacy. But what Han left behind was not territory, and it was not armies. Let us account for what Han truly left behind. It institutionalized Confucianism as state doctrine and established a method of governance that moved people through shared values. Yet we must not forget, Han was a hybrid state, one that combined law, bureaucracy, yin-yang cosmology, and practical statecraft. The culture of governance by learned officials, rooted in the recommendation system. This foundation would develop into the imperial examination system perfected under the Sui and Tang dynasties. The exchange of civilizations across the Silk Road. Silk traveled west. Buddhism, glass, and spices flowed east. Kai Lun's refinement of paper-making. It democratized knowledge and accelerated civilization. And the seismoscope, the armillary sphere, an endless pursuit of scientific understanding. The word Han today is the name of China's primary ethnic group. Han people, Han characters, Han language. The empire fell, but the civilization it created lives on. And now, a question for you. History only records the outcomes, but those who lived it did not know how it would end. The Han Dynasty came to understand that fear and law alone could not sustain an empire and sought the answer in values that move the human heart. Yet even Confucianism over time became hollow and crumbled from within. If you were a leader of an organization, a team, or a society, what drives people? Rules or values? And how can values guard against corruption? Just as Han governance was not pure Confucianism, but a hybrid of law, yin-yang thought, and realpolitik, how should a leader reconcile the tension between ideal and reality? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm grateful you stayed until the very end. Here on this channel, Turning Point History, we tell the stories of people who lived through history's turning points, just as those of the Han Dynasty did. Their decisions, their struggles, delivered straight to your core. The rise and fall of empires, the choices that changed civilization, the wisdom of humanity, every video makes you a witness to history. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey through history. Until next time.